back to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again, and just like any other time, we have another awesome guest and show for y'all today. Today's guest, oof, I got tired reading his bio. He has so much stuff he's doing. This guy has so much on his calendar. 5 companies, man, a huge family, a husband in business, man. Wow. Let me get right to it. He is the CEO and president of Rexius Nutrition, co-owner of Iron Heaven Gyms, president and founder of VHI Supps and OPP Omaha Protein Popcorn, and he is the force behind Rexius Business Consulting. And trust me, he is always on the move, catching flights, booking events, making things happen. So first and foremost, I want to say to you, Tim, thank you for spending some valuable time with us and our audience today. How you doing, man?
Oh, good. Thanks for having me. Honored to be here for sure.
Yes, sir, man. Let's get right into the roots in the personal story behind all of this. You have gone from sleeping in your car to building an international brand. When you look back at those times where you had to get through those hardships, what was part of shaping your mindset that you remember most?
Honestly, I mean, from being homeless, being hungry. I mean, like literally hungry. Like, we had this expression we used to use back in the day called "you can fill your belly button, eating your spine." There's nothing left, right? So, I mean, that changed me forever. I bet on me, and I was desolate. Having to break into the rec center locker room, take a shower, that kind of stuff. That hunger never left me. And it's even to this day, my wife was a reminder. She goes, Hey, bro, we're not poor. I'm like, I know, but I can't shake it. You know what I mean? And when you're in that kind of state, and how it shaped me for all my businesses going forward is a sense of urgency. Because when you're that broke and, you don't know where you're going to sleep, it creates a sense of urgency. Everything has a top priority. And I think that's what's served me so well in business now is I've never lost that sense of urgency. Every customer is important. Every email is important. Timing is of the essence. Everyone's my top priority. And it's, a big distributor of mine up in Canada who's been doing business for about 65 years in this company. And he goes, I've never seen a brand respond as fast and detailed as you do. And you got all these employees, but you're the one responding. And I said, it's because I have a sense of urgency that I haven't been able to replicate to a certain degree. And, I appreciate you guys. Without you, I always tell my customers, without you guys, I'd have to go get a real job. And that would not do well for me. So, I appreciate them. It's that sense of urgency.
With that humility and understanding that life, it happens, whether you're ready or not, is on the way. When you look at how you've been able to adjust through not just starting your businesses, but like you just said moments ago, being able to have that customer priority in place and having that heart, how were you able to sustain having that heart position? Because that's not easy to do. It takes humble pie.
Humility. I get served a fresh dose of humility every so many years. It'll be an economic change, whatever it might be. It gets so busy, and I sit back and remind myself, I'm like, now it's a different kind of urgency. It's a different kind of busy, right? But this is what I prayed for, right? This is it. This 70,000 things on my calendar, stretched thin, this way, that, the other way. This is what I prayed for. So when you were broke, you prayed like, oh man, I can't wait till I'm that busy. I got that many customers. I got many orders. And then it happens and you're just stressed. And like I was telling you before we started, that's why I got all this gray hair. I'm not even that old. But this is what I prayed for. So, it's, if I had a lot of extra time, that means I'm broke. So it's one or the other. I mean, you pick your poison, right? Like if that's my problem is that I have too much to do, too many businesses, too many things. That's quite the blessing to have compared to being where I was before, where I didn't know where my next meal was going to come from, how I was going to buy my kids Christmas presents, or anything like that. This is quite an opportunity, honestly. And so perception is reality. You just got to shape your perception.
When you look at entrepreneurs today, I mean, we have all these tools. We obsess over pitch decks with Canva and all these presentations and social media feeds. We had to load them up with all this amazing content. When you think about the process that you had to take scaling your business, that's a science in itself. But in your personal experience, What was it like being in the thick of things, understanding how you can move and grow your businesses?
Well, and it's still to this day, it's the most important thing. My ability to very quickly cultivate a relationship and make an impact on a personal level is my weight in gold. And the pitch decks and the crowdfunding and all. I mean, I get asked all the time when I speak. I got high school speech next week in front of 1,200 kids, and they bring all this up because that's what they're saying. That's what's trending. That's what's on, the TikToks and the reels and the YouTube. I'm like, those are all great tools. You guys get to have that I didn't. That's awesome. But none of those tools will ever come close, even in the same ballpark, as my ability to meet somebody, shake a hand, and convince them that I'm a good guy to do business with. And that old school principle works, especially more now than ever, because so many people rely on pitch decks and fancy video and all these technological things, which there's a place to mend them both. And that's where I think I've done really well is, taking the technology and using it to my advantage, but to amplify my, old school homegrown approach of, hey, yeah, I've got these tools here, but let me tell you about me. Let me tell you why we're going to do this. And let me tell you why loyalty for me is above all else. And by doing that, I've been able to scale tremendously beyond most companies that I've competed against with significantly smaller budgets, because I understood the most invaluable thing is if they like me and I help them get paid, we're going to do business. And then that spreads, and that's really where it's all stemmed from. It's just sticking back to that old school principle. Like, I'm a man of my word. What I say, I'll do. You want a contract? Cool. We can write one. If not, my handshake is as good as gold and I won't violate it.
Once again, listen to I Am Refocused Radio, talking to our guest today, Tim Rexius. Go to his website, timrexius.com. My next question for you is, you're in international world, when it comes to business. Your businesses are global. What's one lesson that you've been able to learn with the process of being able to be ready in the moment? Because
Yeah. And it's international has been so much fun, and it was so scary before I got into it, honestly. But you look at all of social media in the world as a big cocktail party. And if you shrink everything down to something that you can wrap your mind around, and let's say you walk into a big room and it's thousands of people, and it's a cocktail party. Everyone's sitting at little tables, they're standing up, they got their own conversations. And all you have to do is go jump in the conversation and have genuine content, genuine intentions towards everyone, just to hop in the conversation and put your 2 cents in and help people. And literally, that's how I grew the Omaha Protein Popcorn Company to 14 countries before I ever ran a single paid ad. And it's funny that I've learned over the last several years, traveling abroad, going to Dubai, meeting the Middle Eastern business owners. I was scared at first because I was like, man, I don't want to start an international incident and say something dumb. And I want to be respectful of the culture too. And realizing they're just like you and I. They're no different. They're family men, they're family women, and we have a lot more in like than we do that separates us. And they have their perceptions of American business owners, and I have my perceptions. Like the popcorn company, for instance, the protein popcorn. I thought popcorn was an American thing. Nope. Popcorn is the number one confectionery snack item in the world. I didn't know. I went to Dubai and I explained popcorn, and they're looking at me like I'm nuts. They're like, you do realize the Crown Prince here owns the popcorn manufacturing facility in Dubai? I'm like, oh, y'all have a popcorn. I thought corn was just American. Yeah. So I just, a piece of humble pie, right? But the cool thing is that, like what you and I are doing right now, we're Zooming, right? We're having video chat. That allows me to take that ability to cultivate a relationship and shake a hand on a global level without having to hop a flight all the time. And so I just was bodacious enough to look up different accounts in different areas and put a very nice greeting out to the point and hop on a call. And the cool thing is about international businesses is that they're all third, fourth, and fifth generation family businesses. They don't change jobs in other countries like we do here in the United States. Everyone works the same place their dad or their granddad worked. And once you realize as an owner, you're willing to take the time and reach out to them, cultivate a relationship, you do business, it's a handshake and it's done. Here in the United States, you're talking these bigger companies. They have 60 employees in line who all want you to, kiss their tail in perpetuation to get to the top. There's all these barriers to entry, and globally there really isn't, as long as you stick to your word and you follow through with business. It's been fun, and it's been honestly an honor to represent the United States in these Made in America initiatives, and realizing that the perception I thought from watching the news of what other countries thought of us is just absolutely untrue. They love Americans. They love American products. They don't like American politicians. I'm like, well, hey, neither do we. So we have more in common than you think we do. And it was fun. Like, we're making our bags, our protein popcorn bags, now in French, Arabic, Spanish, and Mandarin for all the countries we're in. And, when I was designing the Arabic bags, for instance, they wanted, we had the Made in America on the back with a little flag. I got one right here. It's got a little Made in America on the back of the bag. They wanted it bigger. They wanted it full color, and they wanted it on the front of the bag. And I'm like, really? They go, yeah. If it's American, people love it. I'm like, cool. I mean, what a cool, warming thing you get to hear versus what we get to see on our news and how the perception is. And it honestly warmed my heart quite a bit. And now that I've got so many friends and business acquaintances across the globe, and realizing that, we are all so much more alike than we are apart. And that's just kind of awesome. After being on this planet for this many years, realizing that, it's a lot smaller than we think it is.
Love this conversation. My next question is, you are also a father, super busy. Yeah. So when you look at raising your kids, when it comes to cutting the fluff, what they see on social media or what they hear at school, what are some of the things that you're trying to instill in their young minds so that it will benefit them when they get older?
I make my kids part of everything. I got this from an old pastor at church. You always get the best stuff at church, and he told me, you should have a sit down with, because I was having this struggle where the businesses are pulling in one direction, and I don't want to be less of a parent or less of a husband either. Like I always say, like, I had my chance to grow up. This is my kids' chance, and I don't want them to miss out. I don't want to be less of a father to 6 kids than what they're due and what they're owed and what they deserve. And he said to me, he goes, you're crazy because you do so much stuff. He goes, but make them part of the journey. And so at least once a quarter, we have family dinner, and we sit everyone down from the 6-year-old up to the 20-year-olds. And I got a spread, and significant others, all that kind of stuff. And I explain like where we're at with all the businesses, all the companies, what we're doing, why we're doing it, our mission as a family, what kind of legacy we're trying to leave, what we're trying to build. So they all become part of it. So when I have to be gone, like I was in Dallas yesterday and I had to miss, football practice or something else, or, show choir, whatever it might be, the chance to scare somebody's new potential boyfriend, you name it, all the fun stuff. They understand why, and they're not mad. They're actually proud of it. And they get to, be part of that journey, and explain to them all, I'm like, hey, listen, like we're doing well, and we have big goals, right? And here's Mom and I's goal. And this is what we want to do for legacy. And this is what we want to do to do our kingdom work. And this is why we do what we do. And this is why sometimes, when you guys ask me to do stuff, the answer is no, financially. One, because I've got bigger plans and it's bigger than us. And then 2, I don't want to spoil you to the point that you don't understand what the value of a dollar is. Like, I'm going to give you a leg up in life, but I'm not going to give you a handout. And so it's just being really brutally honest. And I'm probably harder on my sons than I am my daughters. I know that's true. Those girls talk me into things. And the boys are like, "Wait, tell us no." I'm like, because I want you to figure it out. I want to be the first person you come to when you have a business idea. And I want to invest in you, but I'm a tough sale too. You got to do the work. You got to figure it out. Ain't nobody going to say, oh, you're only got here because your daddy gave you money. I want you to know every in and out. I want you to do the same things I had to do, to figure it out. And it's the same thing I do with my employees, who are also like my kids in some ways, because I'm like, hey, I want to be there for you. I want to be a page in that story, but here's what you need to do to make it happen. So I keep it very real with my kids. And I explained to him, like, you guys got these things, you got the phones, you got 24/7 access to every person on the globe. Any excuse you had not to be successful in business is gone. It's gone. And I go, so I do this with speeches, and I do with my kids. If they're going to complain about something, like, what are you complaining about? I mean, back in the day, the barriers to entry were significant. You had to travel. It cost money. Cell phones were a thing. I'm not that old, but nobody had internet on the phones. They didn't have any of that stuff. And if you wanted to advertise, it was radio and TV, and you had to pay to play. I mean, now you can start a podcast and start jumping in conversations like the cocktail party on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, just throwing out freeness, just helping people, and you can build a name for yourself for nothing. I mean, that stuff didn't exist. Now you go back to like my grandfather's generation, coming out of World War II. You imagine if they had something like these devices? I mean, good Lord. I mean, my grandfather was one of the best salesmen I've ever seen in my life. I mean, if he had access to that phone, oh Lord. And so I think I'm like, am I even pushing as hard as he did? I mean, I always go back to the story of Colonel Sanders, my favorite story in American history. The guy's 65 years old, retires as an electrician, gets a Social Security check for $160. It was like, man, like, what am I going to do? This stinks. All he had was a chicken recipe. And that guy went around the entire South trying to sell that recipe. He had 1,009 no's before he got his first yes. How many of us had that kind of determination to go door to door 1,009 times before we got a first yes? And I think that's been lost, especially in today's entrepreneurial society, that, hey, sometimes you got to have some grit. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And do you have the juice it takes to go do the marathon? And I make sure my kids understand, like, you can accomplish anything, but you got to have the grit to do it.
I think that's a great highlight, because toughness is something that we have to actually practice, not just think about. It's easy to digest the most amazing podcasts in the world and YouTube videos in the world, or read the best books in the world. But until we actually experience that harshness of reality, that's when the true rubber meets the road. When you think about your growth, toughening out from back then to still toughen out now, what are maybe a couple principles that you learned along the way that allowed you to remember tough times don't last if you toughen up and get through it? What are some 2 principles or more, if you can remember?
What am I learning from this? At the end of the day, you can sit there and get mad, and we're all going to get hit with things that aren't fair, and it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. It's not a matter of if. And so you got to sit back. Okay, what am I learning from this? Whatever it is. Maybe I'm learning a lesson. I did something stupid. I got to acknowledge that. Being self-aware is huge. I screw up every day, and it's only a failure if I don't learn from it. And I have to sit there and seriously internally audit myself, even at this stage, as much as I did when I first started. Okay, I screwed up here. What did I do wrong? How can I improve? Like literally, legitimately, actually improve this, not just some, next time I'll have a better attitude. No, like, what did I do specifically, and how can I specifically improve on this? And just take the L, because you're gonna take the L's in the back. Some of them sting, man, especially when you're broke. You're like, you can't afford to have a lot of L's, and so you really have to learn from those. And that's a principle I still take to this day. I mean, it's a huge principle. Like, okay, what did I learn from this? And then 2, what's my purpose? What's the purpose of doing this? All right, okay, if it's just money, okay, what purpose does that money serve? What's my bigger reason? It can't just be to buy stuff. I mean, I did it because I worked in the industrial chemical field for about 6.5 years in my 20s before I came back to nutrition, went back into my own companies. And I made a lot of money, guys. I made a lot of money for a guy who was completely broke only like 5 years before that. And what happened with the job that wasn't fulfilling me is I spent every dime I ever made outside of my profession trying to bring joy to my life that I didn't get from my profession. And I still ended up broke. And so I figured out pretty quick, okay, money's fine. Money's great. You want to multiply it. Cool. What's the purpose behind it? My wife and I have a purpose, and we know what it is. Yeah, we want to give our kids better than we did. Nice house, nice cars, whatever. It's just not material things really aren't our driver. We read a story about a church many years ago that raised a couple $1 million to build a new building. And everybody's been to church. There's always the building fund. And they prayed about it as a church, and they say, you know what, we're not going to do this. They went to the local hospital, found the 100 most outdated, largest medical bills in the entire parish, and went and paid them all off. And then walked to people's houses and gave them a paid in full receipt. To this day, it makes the hair in the back of my neck stand up, because that's how you impact people. That's making a difference in people's lives with really no response for yourself. And as broke as I have been broke, then rich, then broke, then rich 3 times in my life. And all I needed was an opportunity half the time. And so my goal is, as we build, is to be that opportunity for other people. That's our purpose. My kids understand it, that if I sell the popcorn company for, say $200 million, they're not getting it. We're going to go do that. And they know that. And I want them to be with me when they do that, because they're all capable of building their own too. Like I said, leg up, not a handout. It's just not how the Rexius clan works. We're just not going to do it that way. We're going to impact the people around us, our communities, and that's what we're for. And so lesson I've learned is like, what's my purpose and what lesson did I learn? And if I could stick to those two things, from small to major corporations that I have now, the lessons are still just as true now as they were when I only had $10 left in my checking account.
Once again, listening to I Am Refocused Radio and talking to our guest today, Tim Rexius. Go to his website, timrexius.com. I want to touch before we wrap up is when you think about fear, it's very real, and a lot of times it can be very scary. How have you been able to learn more about yourself deeply when you confront fear? Because unknown economy or just unknown of anything, how have you been able to address that?
That is a good point right there. I mean, you got to think, I had all my investments in real estate in 2008, 2009, and that crashed. And so all of a sudden I was broke and miserable. I'm like, well, let's be broke and happy. Let's not make it about money. So I started my first nutrition store and gave up all the good cushy benefits and all that. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this because this has purpose, right? And then fast forward into COVID, I didn't know what was going to happen. Scared. I mean, I was. And I had a lot of franchisees that got shut down in other states and different cities where they just weren't able to open. So my wife and I had to look at it and go, okay, what's right? What's right is to make sure all these guys get a paycheck for the next 60, 90, 120 days, even though it's not our responsibility. It's independently owned business. We coach, but it was the right thing to do. I looked at her and I said, we're not going to get this money back. She goes, I know. We'll figure it out. And when you find out, when you get to the fear point, and there's so many things from the 35,000 foot point of view as a CEO, where you're looking at things from every angle and dimension, which is really what you do as a CEO as you scale, is you're looking at things 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, 30 years down the road. And you have to kind of calculate how all these things work. And when you're in a point of an economy, especially the last two, I'll be real with you, 23 and 24 is the worst economy I've ever seen in my life, especially for discretionary spending. I saw more business owners go bankrupt in 23 and 24 than I did during COVID. And then now we're kind of on this up kick trend a little bit, which is nice to see, but it's very fearful. It's scary because I have a lot of kids. I have a lot of people that rely on me for an income, franchisees, employees, business partners, for me to do what I do. And I realized that slowing down and day by day, it's just one day at a time. It's just like walking the 10,000 steps where it starts with one step, and you can just take it one at a time, and you can alleviate the fear by getting hyper focused on each step in front of you and just one thing at a time. Let's tackle today. Yeah, next week's going to come. That bill is due next Friday. That's cool. You know what? I'm still going to be alive by next Friday. And for right now, all I can handle is this week. I can handle Monday and I can handle Tuesday. And by just doing these small little wins, I will get to next Friday and I will figure it out. And being fearful of something that hasn't happened yet is a colossal waste of time and energy. And I've just realized, after all the years, the ups and downs, economies and political changes, and they all does affect things, that all I can deal with is what's in front of my face right now. And the rest of it's going to happen no matter what. And I will worry about it when that happens. I'm just going to focus on doing the 3 or 5 things in front of my face at 110%, the best that I can. And then I'll just keep doing it each day. And my whole life mantra is about winning. And so I need to win today. I need to win. And the next Friday's still coming. That bill's still due, and I'm not happy about it. But if I get 5 wins today and then 5 wins tomorrow, who knows? Like, something's going to come out of the woodwork. Some moment of genius is going to hit because I'm in that winning mindset, and maybe some opportunity pops out in front of me I hadn't even thought of yet because I'm hyper focused on winning versus sitting there frozen in fear. And more money is wasted by indecision than wrong decisions in business. The amount of times I've seen business owners freeze because they're so scared of making the wrong choice, it actually costs them significantly more money than just making the wrong choice and figuring it out. And so I guess that's allowed me to scale different businesses because I'm willing to take a risk. I'm willing to lose, because losing is just one way I screwed up until the way I win, because winning is the goal. And so don't let fear freeze you. Fear only wins if you stop moving. So don't stop moving. Just keep going and you'll figure it out. I told my wife, if I got to go back to delivering pizzas at night to figure this out for a little extra bread, I'm not beyond it. Their pride. And that's the thing is being a parent though, too, that it's made me better at business. It's removed the pride. I will do whatever I have to do for my kids. Does not matter. My kids and my wife, doesn't matter. If I got to pick up dog poop for a living, I'll do it. I've done it actually when I was 20. I've mowed lawns. I've delivered pizza with 2 master's degrees. Doesn't matter. I'll do what I have to do to put bread on the table. And it is what it is. And that's, if you'll find, if you guys research some of the most successful people in the world, and they get asked that question, what happens if it all went bankrupt tomorrow? They go, here's what I would do. They immediately know the first 3 things they're going to do. So do I. I can work. I've got business acumen. I've learned this. I'll just go back to work. I'll find a new method and mode. And I'm just going to go. Sitting on my hands being fearful doesn't create anything productive whatsoever.
Last thing before we go is you mentioned earlier that you're going to be traveling to a next event, talking to the young people. When you think about how opportunities are there, but if our preparation method is not ready, sometimes success will crush us. What's your message to young people to help them get instill their young minds to prepare themselves for the future?
Live cheap. Live cheap. I've seen more business owners go belly up, not because the business wasn't still successful. It's because they spent the success to show off to other people. And so businesses will have seasons. All of them do. Industries have seasons. We all know that. And I've just seen so many young business people get that first taste of success and they want to show it off. And they're going to buy that. I saw this in the nutrition industry. It was this big gig like 20 years ago. I'm going to buy a Hummer. Well, they're cool. I mean, they're a big car. I'm in Nebraska. I'm in the Midwest. The bigger the tires, the cooler it is. That's just how it works. So I'm going to get a Hummer. And all of a sudden, sales drop, seasonality, midsummer, maybe it's Christmas time, whatever. And they end up making the Hummer payment and not the advertising investment or the product investment they should have made. And all of a sudden, slowly over 6 to 12 months, there's less and less product, less and less ads, but they still got that Hummer payment. Because they'd hate to admit failure to their peers that I can't afford that Hummer because I didn't deal with the seasonality of the business. And that's how a lot of business owners go broke. And so, quite literally, when I moved back to Omaha and started this company, I didn't buy a house. I had all these kids. And at one point, my wife and I were a blended family. We got 5 kids. So there's 7 of us living in a 3-bedroom house. And at that point, I owned 3 companies. And finally, my wife, who's definitely my better half, was like, bro, we need a bigger house. I'm like, all right, fine. Before that, I was renting. I had the oldest, I had like 50 employees at the time here in Omaha. I had the oldest car. And everybody's like, why you drive that car? Because it's paid off. And the point you get to this point in success in business where you realize that you're chasing legacy and not keeping up with the Joneses. And once you get to that spot, it's beautiful. My dad told me, my stepdad, he goes, wait till you get in your 40s. I'm like, why? He goes, because that meter that you care what other people think just continuously drops. And somewhere in the 40s, all of a sudden it hits 0. And here I am 44 years old. And I'm like, oh, I get it. I don't care. I don't. I'm on a different mission now. And I spent a lot of time in my 20s and 30s caring what other people thought for a while. And then as I got older, I'm like, I don't care. I care what my kids look at me. I care how my wife looks at me. I care how my creator looks at me. I care how my business partners and my employees know that I'm willing to go to bat for them. That I care about. What random Joe or Karen on the street or the internet thinks, I really don't care. It's funny because we have a marketing company that's helping us with the popcorn globally because we're in so many languages. And they're like, so negative comments, what do you want to do? Delete them. They go, why? I could just delete. Well, it ruins the algorithm. Don't care. I'm not giving somebody 2 seconds of my time. It's going to take away my positive energy. And make them famous on my behalf. I'm not dealing with it. I'm not going to waste 2 seconds because, it's just like everybody. We worry about what other people think. We don't pay attention to the 1,000 good reviews. We focus on that one bad one and we let it affect us. And this beautiful thing and the gray hair power, as I like to call it, I don't care. I'm doing me. And that's where the focus is. And so, younger entrepreneurs, like just focus on the drive, focus on the bigger mission, the bigger picture. Quit worrying about what your high school classmates, your college classmates did. Who cares? Who cares what your ex did? Just focus. There's got to be a bigger mission at play. And if you keep that in focus and realize the ups and downs are going to happen, you live cheap, you'll be able to do things you could imagine. There's an expression, and I love this. Live like no one else is willing to live now, so later you can live like no one else can. And if you stick to that, you'll be at the point where I'm at right now, where I'm able to do things that a lot of my peers can't do. But they all had way nicer houses, way nicer cars than I did for the past 20 years. And it's not like, I'm not talking for 3, I'm talking 20 kids. I'm talking from your 20s into your 40s, live cheap, live poor. And my wife, thank God, she's there to remind me that I'm not poor. And now I'm able, I'm doing a show in Playa del Carmen, Mexico in December. And I got a big family, and I got a son-in-law now. I got a grandbaby. Everyone's got significant others, except for my younger kids, obviously. So I had to book 12 flights to Playa del Carmen, and get 5 hotel rooms which 10 years ago, 15 years, I never could have afforded that. And now, like, my family gets to be part of that show. And because for the first 20 years, I didn't take the big vacations. I didn't have the nice car. I didn't do any of that stuff. And because I didn't, and I was willing to not care, now I can do stuff that most people can't dream of. So keep eye on the prize.
Once again, been watching and listening to us on Refocused Radio. Go to our guest website, Tim Rexius. Website is timrexius.com. Man, this was a great conversation. Like I always want to say to you, man, thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm truly honored.